All right, candidates want to speak because they know it's going to be a long night, and it increasingly is becoming very apparent that we're having major problems across the state tabulating the vote.
Yeah, actually, I've been in touch with a woman who's a secretary at a rural precinct, and she said they were not able to report numbers. They've been on hold for a while. So, Stefan, this is just feeding into that.
We're hearing an hour waiting on the phone before someone at the Democratic Party can receive the results of precincts. And that's, a horrible, serious problem. And the poor candidates are having now to give these basically standard speeches about success and how great it is and thank their supporters without knowing where they came in. I mean, it may be that some of them are giving these speeches and they're going to come in fourth or fifth, and so that's really a terrible failure.
We want to get out to Elizabeth Warren right now because she is giving her speech as well. Let's listen.
We meet big problems with even bigger solutions. So I'm here tonight because I believe that big dreams are still possible in America. Tonight, you showed that when you imagine an America that lives up to its ideals, you can set in motion the process of making it a reality. All it takes is some hard work and better connections. And here in Iowa, that's what happened. You came together, you organized, you showed that we are united in our conviction that hope defeats fear, that courage overcomes cynicism, that we will always be a stronger party and a stronger nation when we unite around our shared values to advance justice and expand opportunity to everyone. So right now, across America, there are folks standing with groups of friends or sitting on the couch with loved ones or maybe even watching this quietly on their phones because everyone else in the house is asleep. Watching and thinking, maybe I could help out. Maybe I could volunteer some time. Maybe I could get in the fight. And that is how we're going to do this. I am here tonight to tell you, if you have hope that America can be better than it has been in these last few years, and if you have the courage to speak out and do a little organizing with us, then this campaign is for you. Imagine an America where corruption doesn't block our ability to reduce gun violence, an America where we can urgently tackle climate change, an America where we can bring an end to the opioid epidemic, then this campaign is for you. If you can imagine an economy where every job has dignity, where people are paid a livable wage, and where everyone has a real chance to thrive, then this campaign is for you. And if you can imagine a democracy where people, not money, come first, this campaign is for you. And if you can imagine an America of moral clarity that lives its values every day, then this campaign is for you. Tonight, we are one step closer to winning the fight for the America we imagine is possible. Tonight is for you. Tonight is for every volunteer who put their feet to the pavement to fight for change. It's for every organizer who braved the blistering cold to knock on doors. is for every person who made a call or sent a text to spread the word. I'm going to tell you about some of our volunteers, because tonight is for the veteran who came back diagnosed with PTSD and who volunteered every week to help us become a nation that honors its promises to its veterans. Tonight is for every undocumented, unafraid organizer and volunteer who proudly knocked on doors to let the world know that the path to progress runs through courage, not fear. Tonight is for the innovative, persistent women who organized babysitting clubs so they could get in more hours of volunteering. And tonight is for the single mother who had been homeless and who was so determined that her twin daughters would grow up in a better world that she found the spare moments to make calls on our behalf. Tonight is for everyone who believes that no matter the color of your skin, who you love, how you worship, where you were born, or what zip code you live in, you should be safe and your opportunities should be pretty much as good as everyone else's. Yep. In every day and every way, this movement is made up of people who know that the only way to make progress and to build power is to fight from the heart. So tonight, Iowa, and all of you, I want to say thank you. Thank you for living your values. Thank you for standing together.
All right, you were listening to Senator Elizabeth Warren give her kind of crowd rallying speech that we're hearing them give tonight. All the candidates are kind of going through that at the moment.
They all seem to be making victory speeches because they want everybody to stay positive at their location, and nobody really knows who's ahead because there's only 2% of the precincts reporting. Let's go and listen to Bernie Sanders now.
Have a strong feeling that at some point the results will be announced. And when those results are announced, I have a good feeling we're going to be doing very, very well.
Sorry, Bernie can't hear you as well.
And Iowa has sent to the nation, the message shared by the American people is that we want a government that represents all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors and the 1%. In this enormously consequential 2020 election, the first state in the country has voted, and today marks the beginning of the end for Donald Trump. The most dangerous president in modern American history. No matter what our political views may be, the people of America understand we cannot continue to have a president who is a pathological liar, who is corrupt, who does not understand our Constitution, and is trying to divide our people up based on the color of
But now paranoia is going to set in.
Let's talk about that.
Social media.
All right, so we're going to break away from Bernie. We lost his audio there. Not the first technical difficulty that we are seeing with the 2020 Iowa caucus. The reporting of the results is quickly becoming a mess, and we can't reach Iowa Democratic Party leaders. Their communications person is not responding to Local 5 to answer questions. Meanwhile, you say these candidates are giving essentially victory speeches because they want to win, and then, in your words, you said the Jets are waiting with the engines running for them to go to New Hampshire.
That's true, and the speeches are essentially rehash of their campaign speeches that they've been giving for months and months. And so it's very discouraging. But what they're trying to do is put the best spin on it, that we're doing great and thank you and let's move on to New Hampshire. But I think a lot of people realize that, that's just a facade because they don't know the results. And the Democratic Party in Iowa really needs to come clean very, very quickly, because I'm starting to get text messages now from friends and from acquaintances and media people that I know all over the world saying, is there something that's being fudged? Is Bernie Sanders really winning and ahead and the party doesn't want him to? So paranoia sets in pretty quickly when these kinds of things happen.
Right.
And conspiracy theories, not good.
And we got Bernie Sanders' audio back, so we're going to go back out there. We want to hear the rest of his speech.
For all single day program. The American people understand that in the year 2020, all of our people, regardless of income, are entitled to get a higher education. And that is why, together, we will make public colleges and universities tuition-free, and why we will cancel all student debt in America. And we're going to do that for a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. 11 years ago, we bailed out the crooks on Wall Street. Now it is their time to help the middle class. And unlike the President of the United States, the American people understand that climate change is not a hoax, but is an existential threat to our country and the entire world. They understand that the time is now for us to take on the fossil fuel industry, to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies. And as President of the United States, because this is a global issue, not just an American issue, we are going to speak to the people in China and Russia and countries all over this world and say, maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.8 trillion a year on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, maybe we should pool our resources and fight our common enemy, which is climate change. And the people of America know the time is long overdue for major reforms to a broken and racist criminal justice system. We're going to invest in our young people in jobs and education, not more jails and incarceration. And the American people also understand that our immigration system is broken, and together we will pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And the American people know that gun safety legislation will be written by the American people, not the NRA. And the American people most certainly know that it is women who must control their own bodies, not politicians. So brothers and sisters, yes, together we will defeat Donald Trump, but we're going to do more than that. Our message to Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex, our message to them is change is coming. Together with the strongest grassroots movement this country has ever seen, where we have knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors here in Iowa, we're doing it in New Hampshire. So let me conclude by thanking our great staff, our volunteers here in Iowa. And now it is on to New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, California, and onward to victory. Thank you all very much.
There, a lot of energy there as well tonight. They're trying to keep it through the roof as we still wait for these results. And I want to make something clear is what we have heard from how things went at the caucuses tonight. They went smoothly. The caucuses went well.
The
sites were run well. They were in and out. People were on their way early. It's the handing off of the results that's been a challenge. So my question is, are we too impatient? Are we expecting too much too quickly? Or should the party be able to deliver on this?
Well, the expectation is set that once the caucuses conclude, then the results will be reported and we will know before 10 or 11 or midnight, how the rankings came. If you have to wait until the next day, a lot of the dynamic of the Iowa caucuses is gone because people are now beginning to send me all kinds of tweets and things about suspicions about that there's something being manipulated. And I think when the results finally come in, the ones who don't do very well are going to say, well, we don't trust that process. Once you don't trust an election process, we know it delegitimizes it. And it's very dangerous, and it's not a good thing that the Democratic Party is conceding the narrative to the Republicans. The Republicans are already tweeting out all kinds of things about how something has been fixed and that Bernie Sanders, is winning, but the Democrats don't want to accept that because they don't really want him to be ahead. And that kind of adds a sort of poison to the whole process.
It's hard to take that image or that perception away once it's been put out there.
Been put there. And the chair of the Iowa Democratic Party should be right here sitting where I am, telling you what happened and what they're going to do to fix it. And instead, we can't find him anywhere.
We can't find him anywhere, and their communications director is not returning our calls. Our newsroom informs us. Iowa Democratic Party has talked to the Associated Press, which has reported that they say they are doing quality checks, which is delaying the tabulation of the vote. The party says that the problem was not the result of a hack or intrusion, but clearly there's a lot of doubt out there. Republican Party's going to step in and capitalize on that. Bernie's off to New Hampshire, but we're still very much stuck in Iowa right now with 2% of the precincts being reported.
Yes, and we've been stuck at that number for an hour or more. And the thing is that the Democrats now have have this horrible narrative that Democrats can't really do things well, that they're incompetent. That's already coming through. Do you really want a Democratic president when they can't even get the caucus results correct? And it's unfair. It's unfair because this is a very complicated process. But there are consequences to incompetence, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. The Republicans reported their results hours ago, right? Because they have a very simple process.
Right. So you've talked about this extensively tonight.
Yes.
And you're urging the Democratic Party to adopt a simpler process.
Simplify.
Do you think that they will be facing much more pressure to do this after tonight?
Either that or Iowa will lose its first in the nation. I mean, that is now a real danger. It was already, but now it really is a real danger. That the National Party is going to say this doesn't work for us, and we're going to change this, which would be too bad. I like the Iowa caucuses. They're
It's a wonderful tradition.
It is.
We wish tonight could be going a much different way. We're holding on for Pete Buttigieg, who we understand is going to make his comments pretty soon, but we want to continue our discussion here. I mean, this is just speculation, but how do we think tonight ends? I mean, could the Iowa Democratic Party say, you know what, this is going to take all night, and we're not going to have any meaningful numbers until tomorrow?
And I didn't bring my sleeping bag, so if I have to stay here all night, it's going to be a rough night.
Nobody wants to see you sleeping on this floor. Trust me.
Well, that's reason enough to get those numbers rolling.
Get those numbers in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Buttigieg, from the early numbers that we saw, is having a better than at least as good as expected night as we get ready to hear from him.
Yes, and isn't it hard for us to be able to basically explain what happened tonight when we don't have the actual results?
Right.
We have the results of a few precincts and a very small percentage of the total numbers that we need in order to make an intelligent assessment of what happened, who's going ahead, who didn't do so well. Very frustrating.
We're normally home with a winner by now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole world, it seems like, is watching because
The whole world is.
people.
Yes, I'm getting text messages from some of my former students and classmates and roommates in military school, all in Costa Rica and other places, saying, "Oh, what's happening there?" They're very suspicious because in their countries, when this happens, there's corruption. Somebody is doing something bad and trying to fudge the numbers. I don't think that's happening here, frankly. I don't think so. I think it's just basically incompetence. I hate to use that word.
So again, another reason to have a clear message put out there
It
as
is.
quickly as possible.
Yeah, and it's another black eye for the Iowa caucuses, which we don't really need.
Right.
It really is not.
You've been covering the caucuses since they started in 72. I know you've been telling us stories about 76 and Jimmy Carter's victory then.
Yes.
Was there the pressure to have the numbers? Was there this intense pressure to have the numbers by a certain time back then?
There wasn't pressure, but the numbers in those early caucuses came very quickly because the process was much more simple. People went in, the number of people participating was smaller. The results were tabulated and called in. In some cases, they might have missed a few numbers, but there wasn't the pressure to have every single vote be exactly precise, because basically the caucuses are mostly kind of a media event. Not that many delegates are actually selected. They're more about momentum going forward and which candidates survive and go on to become successful. But, this is, pretty unusual and getting worse, not better.
Then we have to remember that I believe Iowa represents 1% of the total delegates available at the national level. 1%.
Yes. It is, and it's surprising that they give us this much attention and publicity and vigorish, as they say. But it's because the candidates come here and either show their stuff or basically fizzle out, and that's an important mission, even though we don't have that many delegates.
On a typical night, we would know right now about who's looking to fizzle out at this point.
We would know. We would know. Yeah.
tonight, they're all kind of giving these victory speeches.
They're all giving victory speeches,
yes.
and they're all giving basically their boilerplate campaign speeches that we've heard those speeches before, the ones I've listened to anyway. They were all, how great we are and how I'm going to bring the party together and here are the things I'm going to do. But that's all they can do.
Yeah.
Right?
And we don't. There's a lot of negativity, right now about the fact that where are the numbers.
Yep.
But we don't want to disparage the uniqueness of the Iowa caucus
Right.
and what a genuinely unique event it is, and how it makes it's such a great starting point for the process, and how it makes the candidates do things that maybe they don't have to do it quite the same way at any point later during the process.
This is true because people expect them to answer questions, and they face the voters face to face, which doesn't happen in the large states.
Okay. Dr. Stefan Schmidt, thanks for those insights.
And we do have a little bit more information about what's happening with the vote tabulation right now. Let's head out to Rachel Droz with that information. Rachel?
Yes, Stephanie. So I have been reaching out to Democratic chairs, county level chairs across the Des Moines metro area, just the counties in this central Iowa area. Now, I just heard back from Jasper County Chair Michelle Smith, and she confirms that they are also having phone problems. She says that they were having app problems initially, so they were going to use phone as a backup. She said, so I'm going to take a step back and start with the initial problems that they had. They said that a lot of their precinct chairs couldn't even download this app in the first place, so they went into tonight depending on using the phone system to call in their results, and she says that that isn't working most of the time. She says that every time that they hit roughly the 1 hour mark, that shuts down, it kicks them out, so they aren't able to report those results. And she says that they have about a quarter of their precincts reporting at this time, but they can't get those results actually into the system. I did ask her about tabulation issues. She says she hasn't heard any issues like that happening in Jasper County. So at this time, she doesn't know of any sort of errors in tabulation. We're going to try to set up an interview with her and actually head out there. We also heard back from a few other counties that I actually have yet to call back. So I'm going to actually send things back to you at the Iowa Event Center so I can make some more calls and find out some more information for you guys. So for now, reporting live in Des Moines, Rachel Droz, Local 5 News. We are Iowa.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much for that new information. I mean, kind of what we were expecting to hear is happening. They're just having a hard time. These precinct chairs cannot get their information to where it needs to go.
Yeah, and the fact that the phone system hangs up after an hour, you've been on hold when you're calling a pharmacy or when you're calling your trash collection service, and you get a robo message that says, thank you for calling, please hold on, we'll be with you in a minute. It's really frustrating, and it must be horribly frustrating for the precinct captains and the people who have worked very hard to get those results when they can't get them in to where the reporting will finally occur. And I think it is even more depressing that the Democratic Party is not stepping forward to try to explain what's going on. They should be doing that.
And I anticipate that the candidates are going to have something to say about this snafu too.
I think probably some Democratic Party operatives are not going to be employed on Tuesday.
Speaking of that, I don't know if we're ready right now. We've got Lakin McGee standing by at Joe Biden's headquarters with some sort of a statement that the Biden campaign is now making about all of this. Lakin?
Yeah, guys, so we know that the Vice President Joe Biden's campaign is a little frustrated, along with a lot of people that were here attending to see Joe Biden. So we do have a statement from Joe Biden's campaign. I'm going to go ahead and read that for you guys. It says, "We appreciate that you plan to brief the campaigns momentarily on these issues, and we plan to participate. However, we believe that the campaign deserves full explanations and relevant information regarding the methods of quality control you are employing and an opportunity to respond before any official results are released. We will look forward to hearing from you promptly." So again, Joe Biden's campaign, they're frustrated. We just heard from him just a little while ago. You saw it at home. Joe Biden is very happy about where he's heading. He's going on to New Hampshire. He's happy he caucused here in Iowa, got all the votes that he did. But I also heard some of the people that were here to see Joe Biden. They were not happy that there was delays. And we also talked with some people, one of them being a Republican, that just said she wanted to hear what he had to say. Go ahead and hear what she had to say on that. Did you caucus for Biden?
I did not. Actually, I'm registered Republican, but I like to come hear the candidates speak by themselves so I can kind of make a judgment on what they're saying. I think a lot of times we hear what they're saying a lot that's edited by the media, and sometimes it can be good just to hear what they have to say and make your own decision.
Now with the small space here, there was a ton of people that showed up, one even not being from Iowa. She says she's from Chicago. Go ahead and listen to what she had to say. Why'd you come to this event?
Well, I wanted to see Biden because he was like our vice president before and stuff, so that'd be really cool to see him in person.
Now a lot of people frustrated that those delays, well, they're not in yet, and some of them, as you can tell, while they're heading home, they've already heard Joe Biden, but they are eager to see the results, and hopefully we'll have that here soon. Reporting live in Des Moines, Lake and McGee, Local 5 News, we are Iowa.
Lakin, thank you. Frustration now coming in from the candidates themselves.
A little annoyance there in that, and I think they're right that, if things are not working correctly, at least come out and say exactly why and how you're going to fix that, instead of basically hiding and having silence from the party. Right. That's not a good way to deal with that. You can look back on my writing about this. I've written several articles in pretty good publications where I said this is really not a good way to run the caucuses, and the 3 votes are a bad idea. It's too complicated, and there could be some big problems. Not that I'm clairvoyant, but I could see that this was not going to be a process that was optimal, that that really would work.
And all the candidates wanted to wake up tomorrow and start talking about New Hampshire, and now they're still going to be talking about Iowa tomorrow and trying to sort things out.
Yes, and they're going to arrive in New Hampshire, and they're not going to be able to say I won the Iowa caucuses or I came in second in the Iowa caucuses. They're going to have to try to campaign as a standalone in New Hampshire, and the Iowa caucuses will be irrelevant because we don't know the results. I don't know when we'll know the results because the system seems to be horribly dysfunctional.
And even when we do get the results, is that big, momentous?
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's
We've
gone.
lost it already, haven't we?
Because tonight is the night when you get Big Mo, which is what you get in Iowa. You come out, came in first, second, and third, and it's fantastic. Tomorrow, no longer. Tomorrow, it's all the coverage will be, all the media that are here in this great center, they're going to be in Manchester, New Hampshire. And they're going to be setting up there and ready to report what's going on there as they prepare for the primary.
They may indeed be putting more energy tomorrow into the coverage of maybe what a disaster this was tonight and the feeding frenzy that ensued.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, such and such won, and now it's time for New Hampshire.
That's right. I mean, they will report the results of the Iowa caucuses, but they will be largely irrelevant,
So whoever gave a victory speech tonight gets to kind of own that as we move on.
They all gave a victory speech.
Yeah.
So there were 5 front place winners, as far as I could hear, because they all gave victory speeches, and we're on to New Hampshire now, and we're going to really do great. And, of course, that's kind of a fiction. We don't know who the winners were. Well, I mean, we have a pretty good idea. Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden are probably doing pretty well, and Amy Klobuchar maybe has come in 4th. I don't know. But certainly Yang and some of the others need to now probably reconsider whether they want to stay in this,
We don't know how tonight will influence their decisions because they were going to have a crystal clear-cut decision at the end of the night, and now that gets pushed down the road.
Well, it's possible. That's an interesting comment you make, because it's possible that some of the ones who didn't do well in Iowa can go on and say, I'm going to continue because I think I did really well in Iowa, but I don't really know. So, yeah.
So this may actually be beneficial to somebody who wouldn't have been on the radar tonight.
That's true. That's true. If you didn't come in first, second, or third, you can sort of claim that you did really well in Iowa, and you guys need to support me in New Hampshire and South Carolina because I did really well. Which is not a great way for the thing to unfold.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're holding on for Pete Buttigieg, who's expected to make his comments in a little bit. With just I think we had, as far as we got, last I checked, we were still at 2% on the final alignment. Those numbers haven't budged. So you could make all kinds of dangerous assumptions from that, like the fact that like Yang and all of the other candidates that weren't polling very well didn't pass any of the 15% thresholds. I mean, does that mean anything with 2% of the precincts in?
No, it doesn't. But we know what the poll numbers were really up close to the caucuses. I mean, think about it. There have been now 2 catastrophic failures. Number one was the Des Moines Register final caucuses poll, the Ann Seltzer poll, which had to be canceled because they had some screw-ups there in terms of apparently the questions being asked, that they didn't mention Pete Buttigieg when they asked people who they supported. So that was awful because usually we count on that last poll. That's when people have made up the most of their minds, and that was canceled. And then tonight, this thing. It's an embarrassment for the state of Iowa, frankly, to have these things happen one after another like this. It's sad because we're a great state. We do a great job. But, some people have been not doing a professional job.
And you mentioned earlier that in your mind, this really legitimately threatens the Iowa caucuses in the future.
I think it does. Because there were already questions about whether the Iowa caucuses are fair and so on. And so this now raises the question of whether Iowa is competent enough to do this.
What needs to happen to make the case that yes, this is a good way to start off the whole process, and that we should continue on with the Iowa caucus?
We have to keep talking about the fact that we give candidates who have not so much money a chance to come here for very little money and campaign the way Jimmy Carter did. He didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of support, but he came and built his reputation by what he said and how he connected with people, and that's what we do in Iowa. So that still holds. And Iowans are politically very engaged and interested in politics, and people who go to the caucuses, they really study what the candidates stand for, and it's serious. It's not like primaries where you don't have to do anything. You just go and vote and go home or go to work or whatever. So it's a serious process. But if it doesn't produce results in a prompt and an efficient way, then it's not a very useful process.
Right.
And it really is sad. I know we're critical of it because any rational person would be at this point, but I think we're all feeling a little bit of sadness for the Iowa caucus because we love it and we love to cover it, and we realize the value of it and the uniqueness of it.
Yeah.
But the problem has been in the execution.
It has been.
And that's what's making us sad. I'm looking over here and I'm seeing one media outlet starting to turn their lights off.
Yeah.
And they may be packing it in for the night, and I'm just wondering how long it'll be before we get the word that there's not going to be.
I don't think it looks as though we're going to get much of a result tonight. I mean, the Democratic Party clearly is in disarray. They're panicked. They are not able to respond. They should be releasing the information that they are getting, and verifying precinct after precinct. They don't have to wait until they have all the results in. And they're not doing that, which is very suspicious that something is more screwed up than we know.
And as you mentioned, because we're not hearing what's going on, that opens the floodgates of
speculation.
Yes.
And conspiracy theories and
paranoia.
It does.
Not just here, but around the world, really. The world
around the world,
and asking questions.
Absolutely. And I don't understand why they are not able to release results once they confirm the numbers for this precinct and that precinct. They could be releasing those. Then we'd at least have some numbers. But to just freeze it at 2% is very suspicious in terms of how serious their lack of ability,
All right, it sounds like we're going to go over to Casey Nolan at the Warren campaign, who has some new details for us. Casey?
Yeah, I just spoke to Elizabeth Warren's campaign manager, but first I want to show you what's going on. The senator stopped speaking close to a half an hour ago, and as she's famous for, she is still doing selfies with this crowd, and the line is too long to count. Okay, Roger Lau, Elizabeth Warren's campaign manager, just told me that he's not happy with what's going on with the results. He is happy with in terms of what the results say about his candidate. The process he's not happy with. He said every second that goes by without a final tally does not look good, does not bode well for this process. So as for what we know so far, with the numbers showing her perhaps finishing in second, he's confident from what he's seen that she will be in the top three, along with Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg, and he believes Vice President Biden will be a distant fourth. That's coming from the campaign manager of Elizabeth Warren. So as far as the results as we know them now, he is happy. As far as the process, you could tell he certainly is not. Jack and Stephanie.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Based on the very limited numbers that we have, yeah, I guess Elizabeth Warren can be happy with the 2% of the final alignment because she's in second place at 25%, with Bernie Sanders in first place at 28%. Pete Buttigieg is in third with 24%, Amy Klobuchar with 12%, and then Joe Biden only at 11%, but we know that that's not going to be an accurate statewide number because this is such a small sampling, but we don't have much else to go on.
And in a general election in November, we would never report those numbers because they're irrelevant. You know, if only Alabama and North Dakota has come in terms of the results, nobody is going to call the election based on those numbers. Even though CNN and some of those called them pretty early, and sometimes they get it wrong and have to reverse themselves. But you cannot predict on the basis of 2%.
Two words are coming into my mind right now. They keep on entering my mind. Hanging Chad, okay? Remember that episode? And this is feeling like the same kind of a systemic problem.
The anxiety that you don't know who won, and you go on for the next hour and you still don't know who won. Yes, the 2000 election was certainly a big trauma for Americans. And the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court had to finally stop the count in Florida and say whoever is ahead now is going to be the president was unprecedented, never happened before. We don't have that process here. Nobody can stop the counting, and we want the counting to go on and to complete the night. And so, yes, it's that same kind of feeling. Now, it's not as important because it's not as though one of these people would become president based on the results of tonight's caucuses.
Yes.
But we do have a lot of pride in saying, this is what we did and these are the rankings, and now you people in the other states decide which one of these you like. And we've been very good at picking the top three since 1976. Iowa has picked the correct Democrat first, second, or third place, not always just first place, which is a pretty good record.
Very good record.
And tonight we might have done the same, but we won't know until the results are in, and by then nobody cares.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a little surreal, really,
Yeah.
because we've been in the back of our minds over the last few days. We entertained a thought that maybe an outcome like we're seeing was possible.
Yes.
Maybe the app wouldn't work. It's new. All these different levels of reporting now. Maybe it was something was brewing for there to be problems, and here it is. But it's still kind of hard to believe that we've only got 2%.
Not for me.
You
Not
saw
for me.
this coming,
If you go
didn't
back,
You said it earlier.
and you look and see what I've written in op-ed pieces and stuff, I said, this is not a good process. This is too complicated, and this could be a disaster. And I didn't think it would be this big of a disaster, frankly. I thought it would delay things. But, this is an embarrassment. And I'll tell you one thing. There is a lot of international media right here around us. I'm doing Univision and Telemundo. I'm doing interviews early tomorrow morning. I have to get up early, so going to bed late at night, I'm not going to be very good tomorrow morning. But they came all the way here from Japan, from various different countries, and they're leaving tonight with no results. Their reporting has to be horribly embarrassing for Iowa. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate
It's
for
very
all of us,
unfortunate.
not only the Iowa Democratic Party.
And Pete Buttigieg is speaking now. Let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Iowa. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What a night. Because tonight, an improbable hope became an undeniable reality. So we don't know all the results. But we know by the time it's all said and done, Iowa, you have shocked the nation. Because by all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious. You know, 1 year ago, it was in the deep freeze of an Iowa January where we began this unlikely journey to win the American presidency. We weren't well known, but we had a new idea. The idea that at this moment when Washington has never felt further from our everyday lives, a middle-class mayor from the American Midwest could carry the voices of the American people all the way to the American Capitol and make sure they're actually heard. We had the belief that in the face of exhaustion and cynicism and division, in spite of every trampled norm and every poisonous tweet, that a rising majority of Americans was hungry for action and ready for new answers. We could see an American majority yearning for leadership to rally us together behind bold ideas to make a difference in our lives. We saw that Americans were ready to come together, but our politics were not. And to seize this moment, we needed a new path forward, a path that welcomed people instead of pushing them away, brought them together instead of driving them apart, because this is our best and maybe our last shot. We knew that with this American majority, we are on the cusp of changing the game for ordinary Americans, but that we could not win or govern if we wrote people off who didn't agree with us 100% of the time. But that if we could come together, the future that we know is possible would start on January 21st, 2021. An awful lot of skeptics who said, not now, not this time. All this talk of belonging and of bridging divides is too naive, too risky. So tonight I say with a heart full of gratitude, Iowa, you have proved those skeptics wrong. And it was by your effort we brought together an extraordinary coalition of Americans, progressives, moderates, and that good number of what we like to call future former Republicans. And that's how we're going to win in November. Because it's about adding people to our cause, adding to our majority. That is how we will guarantee that on the day Donald Trump leaves office, we'll be ready to move America forward into the era that must come next. I want to thank every member of our campaign family, every organizer, every volunteer, every caucus goer who talked to a neighbor or a coworker, every staff member and every supporter who believed. And anyone who shares our vision can join the 750,000 grassroots supporters fueling our movement and chip in right now at PeteForAmerica.com. And while we're at it, I want to recognize a few other people who helped us get to this night. My mother, who not only helped raise me, but put her love of language to work answering letters sent to our campaign. My father, who left us just in the very early days of this journey, but whose own journey to this country made tonight possible in the first place. And to the love of my life, keeping my feet on the ground, how about a hand for the future First Gentleman of the United States? Let's hear it for Chester. I also want to congratulate my fellow Democratic competitors in this diverse
and formidable field. For months, we have been having an honest and respectful but vigorous debate about the course of our party and the future of this nation. And tonight, Iowa chose a new path. From river to river, in churches and community centers and high school gyms, you joined your neighbors to say that the time has come to turn the page and open up a new chapter in the American story. You chose to move on not just from the broken policies of these last few years, but the broken politics that got us here. And tomorrow, because of what we did here, the nation will have that choice too. We take our message onward to New Hampshire, which has a way of making up its own mind, to Nevada, to South Carolina, and beyond to every corner of America. And as we do, we will be building the movement that not only will win the election against Donald Trump, but win the era for our shared values. We have exactly one shot to defeat Donald Trump. And we're not going to do it by overreaching. We're not going to do it by division. We're not going to do it by saying it's my way or the highway. This is our shot, our only shot to galvanize an American majority to win. And make no mistake, ours is the campaign that will defeat this president. A president who cuts taxes for corporations while crushing the rights of workers to organize ought to have to compete with a middle-class mayor who entered politics fighting for auto workers and actually lives and works in the industrial Midwest. A president who tries to cloak himself and his wrongdoing in religion should have to debate a candidate not afraid to remind America that God does not belong to a political party. And a president who avoided serving when it was his turn should have to stand next to a veteran ready to show what troops deserve from a real commander-in-chief. Now, this president may get a pass on the floor of the Senate, but this November, the verdict will be up to us. And when I'm your nominee, we will win big enough to send not just Donald Trump's presidency, but Trumpism itself into the dustbin of history where it belongs. Something is stirring in America right now. You can feel it. We saw it tonight. In the bluest counties and the reddest, in rural towns and industrial cities, in big communities and small, and the suburbs in between. We're seeing Democrats hungry to win, independent voters who had been turned off by our politics, Republicans tired of trying to look their kids in the eye and explain this presidency, all standing together. And all standing together to declare that we are defined not by who we voted for in the past, but by what we're voting for in the future. This is the coalition that no pundit saw coming. And it's the coalition the president won't see coming either. It's a majority we're assembling to agree not just on who we're against, but on what we are for. We are unifying a rising American majority ready to raise wages and empower workers in this fast-changing economy. A majority ready and determined to put an end to endless war. A majority committed to bringing about a day in America where your race has no bearing on your health, your wealth, your access to education, or your relationship with law enforcement. A majority of Americans ready to support our teachers with a president and a Secretary of Education who believe in public education. Those Americans are counting on us to come together and act, and they cannot wait. I've met Americans not even yet old enough to vote, but who know that we cannot wait. An 11-year-old asking how his family will be able to afford the insulin he needs. He can't wait for a president who will ensure there is no such thing as an uninsured American or an unaffordable prescription. The 14-year-old who let me know she's already written out a basic will because she's terrified the next day in school could be her last. Cannot wait for a president who will see to it that she can walk into her school free of fear. The 10-year-old who let me know he expects to be around in 2100 and look back at whether we acted fast enough to secure his future. He cannot wait for a president prepared to enlist every American in the fight for our climate. We are running for them. This campaign is giving voice to them, and it has room for everyone, because no matter who you voted for in elections past, and for that matter, no matter who you caucused for tonight, we welcome you in our campaign, and you belong in the future that we are building for America. Whether you're a young woman with autism in Muscatine or a veteran battling addiction in Claremont, you belong. Whether you clean hotel rooms in Las Vegas or are getting a new business up and running in Charleston, you belong. I believe the presidency has a purpose. And the purpose of our American presidency is not the glorification of the president. It is the unification and the empowerment to the American people to solve these big problems. America has a place for everyone. And I believe this not because of my age, but because of my experience. I believe in American unity because of my experience serving, of lacing up my boots in the dust of a war zone alongside Americans so different we hardly had anything in common besides a flag on our shoulders, yet learned to trust each other with our lives.
Thank you. Thank you.
I believe in American boldness because of my experience governing, guiding a city once called dying out of the shadows of our empty factories and into a brighter future. And I believe in American belonging because of an experience you are part of right here tonight. Looking out at you and remembering how it felt to be an Indiana teenager, wondering if he would ever belong in this world. Wondering if something deep inside him meant that he would forever be an outsider, that he might never wear the uniform, never be accepted, never even know love. And now that same person is standing in front of you, a mayor, a veteran, happily married, and one step closer to becoming the next president of the United States. Is the America we are building. That is the America so many Iowans chose tonight. If you are ready to build an American life defined by belonging, this is our chance. If you're ready to build an American politics defined by boldness, this is our chance. And if you are ready to build an American future defined by unity, in the face of our greatest challenges, this is our chance. So with hope in our hearts and fire in our bellies, we're going on to New Hampshire, on to the nomination, and on to chart a new course for this country that we love. Thank you. Thank you, Iowa. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, there is Mayor Pete with his big victory speech, Dr. Stefan Schmidt from ISU, because unfortunately, because we have no real numbers to go on tonight, all the candidates are either claiming total victory or at least a share of the victory.
Yeah, there are actually 5 first-place winners tonight, if you believe the speeches, which are very upbeat, which are there to excite their supporters going forward. And they're smart not to criticize the lack of results. You know, that's a downer.
Sure.
And they just want to get the heck out of town and get to Manchester, New Hampshire, and start campaigning up there.
Yeah. I know Joe Biden's campaign had a little bit to say about it, their displeasure with the fact that there's been this vote tabulation failure. But we're seeing it. The candidates we missed our window of opportunity to declare a winner because the candidates are moving on. We're watching the local and national media moving on before our very eyes. They've got a date in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it's a sad evening, I think, to go out like this with a real fizzle. You know, it's like when you light a firework and it just fizzles.
It is sad.
And for their part, the Iowa Democratic Party is saying to the Associated Press, it's very hard to get any kind of quotes from the Iowa Democratic Party tonight, but they're saying unspecified quality checks is what caused this, that there was no hack, but we're getting all kinds of evidence from the folks that were running the caucuses at the precinct level that there were major technology problems.
Right.
Yeah. Getting the results in is what counts. No matter how well the caucuses actually work, because I think it looks like they work pretty well.
Yeah.
But it's getting the results in that has collapsed. And I think it's a real criticism of the Democrats that they are not on television explaining what they're doing when they hope to get this going. That's not a good way to hide information. Is not a good way to end the evening.
Unfortunately, the story is now being told in many different ways from different outlets.
Sure, and it allows people to cook up conspiracy theories, and it just leaves you with kind of basically the lights are out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of feels like a bit of a vacuum where we've heard the Republican Party step in, saying that it's a repeat of the DNC didn't want Bernie to get the nomination again, so that's what's at play here, and it just opens up a lot of different dialogue and a lot of different storylines for what may have happened.
Yeah.
Well, let's head out to the Bernie Sanders headquarters where we find Eva Anderson.
Stephanie, well, that's right. I know you were talking about media moving on, national media moving on. We're seeing some of the supporters, the crowd is certainly thinning here, and even up here on the press risers where there's been plenty of media from across the world and the nation, people are starting to take off. It is a long night, and some of the campaign staffers for Senator Sanders have expressed to me they are a bit worried. Everybody here is kind of having a lot of anxiety, but they're holding out hope still. And certainly when Senator Sanders himself came on stage a bit ago, he remained confident. Take a listen.
I imagine, have a strong feeling that at some point the results will be announced. And when those results are announced, I have a good feeling we're going to be doing very, very well here in Iowa.
Senator Sanders, of course, having a little humor there, saying sometime the results will be announced, and you heard the crowd cheer. They're still feeling very enthusiastic about it, and in fact, that's just the message I got from a woman named Tracy Murphy, who lives here in Des Moines, and when I asked her if she was nervous, well, here's her answer. Are you feeling now a little nervous?
No, I'm super confident. I have no doubt in my mind that Bernie is going to pull through this, and the momentum that he carries from Iowa is going to cover the rest of the country.
Now, we were told earlier that if the results are announced tonight, that Bernie would come back on stage. Of course, that was about an hour ago, so we have yet to see what will play out here. We'll continue to cover the camp here at the Holiday Inn Conference Center in Des Moines, where we are with the Bernie team, and they're waiting to, again, hear results just as everyone else is. Live in Des Moines, Eva Anderson, Local 5 News, We Are Iowa.
All right, Eva, thank you. That answers that question as why his room's still full, because Bernie himself said that he would come back out if the results are announced. So they're hopeful there that we will be hearing some results tonight. But Stefan, I don't know. We haven't had any indication that that's going to happen tonight.
Nothing has moved for several hours now. It's stuck at 2%. As I said earlier, they could be reporting where they have confirmed the results. They could give us the information from those precincts, and maybe they're holding it back because those precincts might not be representative. But the fact that we don't know what the Democratic Party is up to and what their plan is very disconcerting.
Do you think people are going to trust the results even when we get them in at this point?
It'll be, in Wikipedia somewhere. But I don't think it's going to make much of a difference in this year's contest, because it's too late and people are not going to pay much attention to the results in Iowa, which are kind of now contaminated, really, in a way. People are not going to trust the results. They're going to say if the Democratic Party was freaking out and having to confirm things, how do we know that they got it right? Right?
It just allows for a lot of suspicion, even though we know the story that it's technology problems is completely plausible, because we're hearing that from the local precinct chairs saying that, well, we couldn't download the app, or the app wouldn't work right. Then we went back to the phone system, and then we were on hold for an hour, which you could see how that could happen, because they probably put all their resources into dealing with the app. And then when it came to doing it the old way, like they did 4 years ago by calling it in, they didn't have the resources to really do that.
They didn't have the infrastructure, and so everybody was put on hold.
They were stuck between trying to do it two different ways, and neither one worked right.
And it's never a good idea to have a redundancy system that is weak and not capable of handling the emergency if you need it. And the phone system was kind of a backup for those few caucus precinct captains who couldn't download the app, who might need to call in. They thought it would be a few of them. And as it turns out, it looks like it was a lot of them that couldn't get the app to work. And so the number of phone calls were overwhelming and not what they expected.
And from every indication, we have heard that the caucuses themselves went off without a hitch. People were able to come in, do their caucusing, go home in a reasonable amount of time. So we weren't hearing about holdups at the precincts in the process.
No,
it's just
we weren't. And the Republicans reported their results very quickly because they have a simple system. They got the numbers in, and Donald Trump won. Of course, that was an easy one. They could have reported those results without having caucuses.
True.
Yeah, they could have. Feels like we're going to be talking about this one for a long time. I mean, it'll go down as kind of a failure and an embarrassment.
It is, and tomorrow morning you might finally have some numbers that you can report, but we don't know how long this delay is, because the Democratic Party is being very obscure about it, right? We can't find any of the Democratic Party operatives and can't get them on the phone.
Right.
Because the phone lines are jammed.
Anything's possible at this point.
Yeah.
And they may have to go back, too, because in a sense the data may have been corrupted, in a way that they may have to go back and kind of like reconstruct everything that happened.
And they have to reconstruct 3 different votes.
Right.
That would be horrible, because there are, as your viewers know, almost 1,700 precincts. 1,700 precincts. So that's a lot of precincts to have to go back and reconstruct stuff.
And you can bet that the demand for transparency is going to be greater than ever. If they think they're just going to come out with the delegate count, that is never going to cut it, because there's going to be a demand for every single number, maybe all the way down to the precinct level, to be released, because people are going to be looking at this thing with a microscope. For those who want to belabor the point and try and dissect the post-mortem of what happened in the 2020 Iowa caucus.
Exactly, and imagine if you went to a caucus and were there for 2 or 3 hours tonight and participated and were enthusiastic, and now you've gone home and there are no results. You're feeling pretty bad about your own party.
We've got just about 2 minutes left in our coverage, because full transparency, full disclosure, we only booked satellite time until midnight.
So we weren't anticipating this.
Certain that we'd be long gone.
I predicted 9:30, 10 o'clock, because they had promised us such an efficient new system, and it's difficult to see what's happened.
I want to end it on a positive note, because we are all here because we love the Iowa caucuses. So this is a blight on the caucus, but why is the Iowa caucus worth saving?
Well, because it's a wonderful process where people really take the time to try to understand candidates and rate them in terms of who they think might do a great job. And we've done a good job in Iowa picking the ones who do well. So let's try to keep them, but let's simplify the process. The Republicans have done it, and the Democrats need to now face that.
And you think it's possible for Iowa to save its first-in-the-nation status?
It's going to be tough.
Okay.
I hope so. I hope the Democratic National Committee is sympathetic and says, you clean up the process and we'll still have you first and New Hampshire second.
Okay.
But it's going to take some convincing.
Starting in the morning, probably.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have plenty of news coming up on Good Morning Iowa starting at 5 a.m. So if you'll be up at that time, make sure to tune in. We got like 20 seconds left, but there was a Bernie campaign staffer that said Iowa is the place where candidates can shake the hand of basically everyone who will caucus for them. And I think that's the one line that struck me about the great value of the Iowa caucus.
Yep.
Dr. Stefan Schmidt, for your time, we thank you as always.
Thank you. It was fun.
We appreciate it. And we are Iowa.com for the latest.